We have a new Tron movie in the year 2025, so let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I've got my review of Tron Ares. This is the third film in the Tron series, and I was able to see it early, so these are going to be my honest thoughts. Before I get into this, though, of course, hit that like button, comment down below your thoughts on this movie if you've seen it. If not, let me know your predictions, your expectations, and of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. I mean, quite a bit. But I want to give you guys some background with my experience with the Tron franchise before I get into the actual review. So over the weekend, I actually watched the original Tron for the very first time. That's right, the movie from 1982. I will say, I have a review on Letterboxd. It has some of the worst VFX I've seen in a long time in terms of how poorly they've aged. It's baffling, and the VFX were distractingly bad. On top of that, the movie was just at best, and that's being generous. Then you move into Tron Legacy, which I had seen when it initially came out. I watched it on demand with my family back in 2011, I want to say. So it'd been well over a decade since I'd seen that movie. Revisited it. It was essentially a first-time viewing, especially with the lore and knowledge I had gained from watching the original film. And I can confidently say that movie rules. I did not expect to really dig it as much as I did. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I had a blast visually. It's genuinely one of the coolest movies I've ever seen. And the score by Daft Punk, incredible stuff. I mean, this movie was riveting. I was just on the edge of my seat the entire time. So the disparity, right? The gap between first and second film couldn't have been greater, and there are rare instances I can think of where a second film is that much better than the first movie. So it was really a shocking experience. So going into Tron Ares, I didn't really have many expectations. I knew they weren't bringing back Joseph Kosinski, who directed the second film. I knew they were kind of taking the story in a new direction, but I also knew this movie had kind of been through the ringer in terms of development, so I was trying to have an open mind. Having seen the movie, there are pros and cons, all right? So I'm going to start with the positives before transitioning into some of the other stuff. But the big takeaway here, and you'll notice this if you've seen a single TV spot or trailer, is probably going to be the visual effects for a lot of people, and I would agree with that. This movie is maybe the best looking of the three. It's hard to say because I think Legacy stuns. I will say this movie furthers what's possible with visual effects in the franchise. There are certain moments where I'm like, man, if only the 1980s movie could have looked like this, which obviously is not possible because technology's come so far, but my goodness, you can tell they blend some of those practical elements with the visual effects, the CGI that is, and that's something that is very pertinent in Tron Legacy, which is why I think it holds up visually, and I do believe this film will stand the test of time from a visual effects standpoint purely. There are moments, whether you're in the grid or a grid, I should say, or in the real world, where you're watching the formation of certain objects or characters, and you're just like, that looks clean. I buy into that. Of course, you've got your Tron staples in terms of weaponry, items. I don't want to say too much here, but all of that might look the best it ever has. And this movie does something the other two really don't, where it blends the digital space, right? This digital world, the grid, with reality, with our world. And so they're kind of combining for the first time in the franchise on the big screen. And that felt like a fresh enough take to keep me sort of engaged with the story. Visually, again, that's going to be the selling point. They go all in on the red color scheme. Red and black, probably my favorite color duo. If you know, you know. But I really dug the visual effects of this film, and that's no shocker here. It's a Tron movie, you kind of expect that. And I would be confident in saying this movie will get nominated for Best VFX at the Oscars, without question, in my opinion. On top of that, there's a booming score in this film. It's done by 9 Inch Nails. Of course, 9 Inch Nails being Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, so they're no stranger to composing film scores. They did The Social Network, Challengers last year, Soul, so they've won Oscars for composing movie scores before. It's just interesting that this time around, they're marketing it as 9 Inch Nails. I feel like it might fit the tone of the movie a bit more, and maybe be a bit more of a selling point in marketing to get more butts and seats. But regardless, anytime the score plays in the background, I'm like, hell yeah. It should get nominated for Best Original Score, in my opinion. It's booming, electric stuff that carries or enhances any scene that it plays over. I'm like, yeah, what I'm watching might not be the greatest, but the score really is taking it up ever so slightly for me. So the visual effects and the score are the biggest praise I can give this film. And then I would say that it tackles concepts that the franchise hasn't, right? So it's going where Tron hasn't. I can't say this is repetitive. It's not like we're beating a dead horse with a plot line or narrative. It's completely new and fresh by comparison to the other Tron films, but kind of transitioning into the mixed bag or negatives, it does tackle an overall concept that has been talked to death in movies and shows lately. That being AI. Of course, in the year 2025, we live in a world where AI is becoming more and more prominent than ever. It's scary how fast AI technology is advancing, and there was a freaking actor strike because of AI in Hollywood. And so I get why AI is being tackled in so many films, but here it kind of does feel a little stale if we're comparing it to other big blockbusters. I mean, I love Mission Impossible, you guys know me, but 7 and 8 in that franchise tackled AI. The Megan franchise tackles AI. Those are just two recent examples from this year, movie sequels that tackled AI. You can add Tron Ares to the list. It's becoming more and more common for plotlines to have robotic characters created by artificial intelligence that grow a set of emotions and want to break free from, you know, the master control and go be their own person. And I don't really know where I stand. It's not the freshest narrative, in my opinion, and it's very drawn out in this film, okay? There's this whole AI storyline that gets a bit messy with Ares, the character played by Jared Leto. And then you've got Julian Dillinger, a character in this film played by Evan Peters. Of course, fans of the franchise will recognize the name Dillinger because of the first film. I just found really the overall story to be pretty uninspiring here. Bland, one could say, because we do live in a world where AI is the name of the game, and so it's not like some groundbreaking concept or futuristic. It's the now, it's current day, and I just don't feel like they did a good job justifying that as the main narrative. I didn't find it very compelling, and on top of that, the characters themselves I never really bought into. I wasn't able to connect with them. And to me, that's what makes not just a Tron movie, but any movie, right? Do you feel some sort of emotional connection to these characters? And here I can't really say I can. I'd say the best character in the film is Greta Lee's character, Eve, because there is sort of a backstory there with a sisterhood relationship that's like the heart of the story. But in actuality, I didn't really connect with anyone because there were a lot of characters being introduced within the first 30 minutes. You're kind of jumping from plot point to plot point really fast, almost like you're going through a checklist. And so it took me out of the movie. I was like, man, I can't really latch on to anyone. Whereas with Legacy, not to play the comparison game, you've got a character in Sam Flynn who is the son of Kevin Flynn, the main character of the first film, and he's trying to find his dad. Like that automatically, all right, I'm sold, I'm in. Here, you got new characters across the board. They kind of lazily write out characters from past entries, and it's just like, damn, we're doing this? We're getting a whole new batch of characters? That's kind of a bummer. I am not a Jared Leto fan. I've kind of made that known, but I'm still gonna approach this unbiased as possible. His performance is robotic, and it's probably intentional because he is playing an AI character, but I couldn't buy in. There were moments that were tried to be played for comedy, and I couldn't buy those. I never really got a laugh in this film. In fact, I feel like this movie has a few attempts at humor, but it was surprisingly dry. Like, there weren't really many laughs in the theater, so that kind of goes to show how stale the movie really comes off as. When you're doing an AI concept in the year 2025, it's gotta be something fresh. And I just didn't feel like this movie had it. Now, Greta Lee is great. Her character doesn't have much to work with. Evan Peters is doing his thing, but his character's kind of one note. In fact, the overall movie is a bit one note, in my opinion. So, meh would be a word I would kind of apply to the narrative, the character development, all that jazz. There isn't much going for that department, but if you just want to go experience some pretty cool visuals in IMAX and hear a great score, then this might be your thing. You know, if you're more of a style over actual substance person, this could be for you. I kind of think of the Avatar movies. I know people will come for me for that, but I feel like the Avatar movies have fantastic visual effects and they immerse you in this world, but you know, there isn't much meat on the bone. That's kind of where I'm at with Tron Ares as well. Now, I want to say that I will tip my hat to this movie for showing us its budget on the big screen. I don't know what the budget for Ares was. The point I want to make here is all big blockbuster movies that, you know, have these huge budgets, like a Marvel film, a DC film, should look like this. This is proof, living proof, that we can still get big blockbuster films that look impressive visually and actually immerse you in the world outside of just the Avatar franchise. I remember a time back in the 2000s where we were getting Pirates of the Caribbean films and you're like, yeah, I see why this movie cost $200 million plus to make, because I buy in. Davy Jones, phenomenal CGI. The actual boats, the sets that were constructed, like you feel the money at work on screen. I feel like in the past 5 or so years since the pandemic, money's just been lit on fire. You can't really tell where it's gone in the budget. Like Dial of Destiny, for example, the new Indiana Jones movie had a disgusting budget. It was like almost $300 million, and you couldn't really tell. This movie, don't know what the budget was, but you can tell it's at work with the visual effects, and I just appreciate that, okay? So I praise the visual, and I praise the score. Everything else is fine at best. It's kind of forgettable, in all honesty. I do wish there was more depth to this story, because I think the potential was there for Ares to be a genuinely good movie, but what we end up getting is just fine at best. It's like a 2.5 out of 5 or something. I start to think more about it. I'm like, yeah, that was a problem. That didn't really go anywhere. That was kind of cringe. And it just has more and more issues that are piling up. So again, while the visuals and the score shine, everything else failed to fully grasp me at times, and ultimately Ares fell a bit flat. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jeff Bridges is back in this movie, but if you're really expecting to see a lot of him, don't get your hopes up. It's your typical, okay, Jeff Bridges is here for marketing. I wouldn't expect to see too much of him. You'll know what I mean when you actually sit down to watch the movie. But if you're expecting a lot of Kevin Flynn or Jeff Bridges on screen, I would just temper your expectations right now so that you can't be disappointed. But that is it for my review of Tron Ares. You're gonna see this movie. If you've seen it, let me know what you think down below, and of course hit that like button, subscribe and hit that notification bell, and be on the lookout for more videos coming very, very soon. But thank you guys, as always, for watching, and until next time, we'll see you guys later.